Does therapy work? That is the question. Welcome to the Lips and Language podcast. My name is Cola, where we talk about life, love, and language. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Let's get into today's topic. So we get into this conversation about therapy and does therapy work? And therapy overall, whether you're Christian or non-Christian, people are always like, I don't need therapy. I don't know if I need it. And so I wanted to give a little bit of a history and then get into the topic. So for those who've been following this journey, this is the God and Sex series. It is continuing into the new year. Honestly, I never would have thought. I thought it would have been done by now, but a lot has been coming up. A lot has been expanding. People have been reaching out, and I think that's really dope that God is doing so much more than I ever thought he would. Well, no, because I think God can do everything. He's doing so much more than I ever thought I could. Let's say that. And with it has brought up a lot. There's a lot that I share in my memoir, but also there's a lot that I realize that I can share here too. And so to start off, for those who don't understand or don't know my journey or my history at least, I'll give you the short version and then I'll expand it. I've been raped a total of 4 times. I was molested by my aunt's boyfriend. And that is just the sexual history. This is a God and Sex series. That is not everything that is about me. There's more. But you have to understand that the door was open at a really young age. I was getting raped at 14, and everything kind of just spiraled from there. And in me finding God, or God finding me, cleansing me, cleaning me, there's been a lot that I've had to go through and a lot that I've had to process. Now, by the time my son passed, and although that was super sad, a lot of people had believed that, wow, like that is, they say in French, incredible. That is incredible that you are still standing. And what they don't realize is, although my son's passing was extremely rough on me and sad, there had been a whole lot more happening in my life or in my history that really brought me to my knees. It really brought me to a place of like, God, what are we doing here? And that was like the cherry on top. That was like the thing that kind of like made everything just explode. You know, there's just that one last thing. And it was a big thing. My son dying was a big thing. But it was one more thing that happened. And it really, it broke me. So I had started therapy prior to my son passing, mainly for these reasons of going through all of this trauma and not having a safe space to talk about it, not being able to really process it out, and not being able to move with it. Like, it was stopping me in so many ways that I had to take a moment to figure myself out before being like, okay, let's go forward. And so I got myself into therapy. Actually, at the time, I had a mentor who was like, you need therapy. And as kind of like rough as that was, there was truth to it, that I did need therapy. And the thing is, I had sought therapy before, but I had sought it through my university, and that one was like an older white lady, and just me explaining when I was younger how I used to get slapped with the belt and certain just different type of punishments like that. Nothing abusive, but in her mind, she was like, that's abuse. And it was really challenging for me to move forward if from a cultural proponent you don't even understand what it is that we went through together, that y'all might consider it abuse, but growing up in the Caribbean background and other backgrounds I've heard of, like minorities and other people, that's kind of just like what it was in their generation. That's how parents chose to discipline. And yes, they moved away from that, but that doesn't mean that that was abusive. Now, there are degrees. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that there isn't a space where it can become abusive, but that wasn't my experience. And that was like the first red flag for me that I'm like, maybe this therapy thing isn't for me, because it really had me feeling kind of weird that she was already kind of like skinning up her face, like, ah, ugh. Or like looking at me with, pover baby, like just, oh, you poor thing. And I was like, man, that is not a good feeling that I want to come into. I don't want to come into your office feeling like you're pitying me when I'm trying to share my story and get help. And so I stopped therapy for a while. And so when it said to me, oh, you need therapy, I'm like, I already tried that and that didn't work. But there was an organization at the time. I lived in a building for women and children, and so there was always different people coming to pitch their programs or to let us know what was available to us in the community that we weren't aware of. And so there was one community that had stepped up, and it's called Women's Health and Women's Hands. It's a women's what do you call it, like healthcare facility in downtown Toronto. And so they had talked about the different programs that they offer, and therapy being one of those. I was like, cool, I think maybe I should look into this. And I did. And my therapist was this beautiful woman from Trinidad. And it was such a relief to be able to go to a space for women of color, because that's what the center is all about, and to speak to somebody with a cultural background and perspective that fell in line with what I grew up with. And so I'm like, okay, it feels like they might understand a little bit more of my situation or my story as I'm telling it along the lines. And so I've gone to therapy. All that to say, I went to therapy. Now, a huge part of why I went to therapy, not just outside of my mentor at the time telling me I need to go, was I had gone to my best friend at the time, her birthday party, and I had gotten really drunk. I'm not a drinker, but I had gotten really drunk. I drank about like 7 rum and cokes on an empty stomach, and I completely blacked out. And it was my sister and the person she was seeing at the time who had to carry me home. Like, all I remember is going to the event and then waking up the next day in my bed and not knowing how I got there or anything. And my friend was obviously mad because I had also thrown up on her shoes, I think. Yeah. And that's when I knew it was out of control. That's when I knew that everything I had been stuffing down was set to destroy my life and ruin me if I didn't get it together and handle it correctly. And so all of these things together is why I'm like, okay, I need to seek help outside of me. My friends weren't equipped to help me with my situation. Who is equipped to help navigate you through the fact that you've been raped 4 times? One of them a gang rape. One of them you walked right into it. Another one that happened to your, like I'll get into every single one of them, but my friends weren't equipped for that. And I wasn't equipped for that. And as much as I was in and out of church, the church wasn't equipped for that, because the church was barely equipped to help me as a single mother, to help me as a woman who had made a mistake, got pregnant, or a teen who had gotten pregnant. They weren't even trying to help with that. So how could they help with the other stuff, right? And in the Black community as a whole, we just see sexual assault as something hidden that we shouldn't talk about, that we shouldn't engage in. And so I was really left to deal with this on my own in my younger years. So let's get into the assaults, and then I can come back to the actual therapy part. So the first time I was assaulted, I was 14. I was gang raped. I had gone to Toronto to my aunt's shop to do my hair. And in the midst of it, I had gone outside. I had talked up, like some gentleman had talked to me. I was like, hey, cool. They're like, do you want to go for a walk? And for whatever reason, I just didn't think nothing wrong with it. And so I walked away with one of them, and some things happened. And then I came back, and then I walked away again, and then some more things happened. And there was the assault. If you want to know more, you can read about it in the book. I don't necessarily want to get too graphic with it right now. And so when it comes to that situation that happened, that was the first time I was engaged in any type of sexual activity. Then we moved to, because of that situation, I was put in a weird space where my family was not really talking to me. And because they weren't talking to me, I had to seek, or they were not even that they weren't talking to me. They were talking to me in the form of bullying, in the form of making fun of me. And so there was only one person at the time who was kind of like being protective of me. And that happened to be my ex boyfriend. He was the only one who was talking to me. And what I didn't know at the time was that he was grooming me. But in the moment, it just seemed like, hey, this is the only person who is actually talking to me, who actually cares what happened to me. When everything got found out, it was proposed that it was more of me willingly going along and doing all these sexual acts versus the gang rape of what actually happened. And part of it is my embarrassment and shame and not wanting to speak on what happened. The other part of it was people just misunderstanding the situation. And so when my parents brought me to the police station to explain what happened, I was just like, nah, I will, I shut down. And I basically, because the cop had said age of consent is 14, and I was just like, okay, well, I consented. And then just left it at that, thinking that it would go away, and it didn't. It blew up in my face, in a really bad way. But that's what happened with that. Now, so from that, a lot of my privileges were taken away. I couldn't do a lot of things. I had my first boyfriend at like 15. I had introduced him to my parents, but because there was so much like, oh my gosh, she's acting out, she's doing this, she's doing that. They were very strict. And actually they were strict already, but they were very strict on this boyfriend that I had, and what it caused was a further divide. I had invited him over, and from that day, I was just like, I will never bring another man around my parents again, because they were just, at the time, it seemed to be over the top. So my experience with sex and sexuality started really young, and it just continued to further like snowball into something greater and greater and greater. So the next time that I was raped was at 16. And that was this gentleman that I had spoken to. I had talked in one of these online chat rooms at the time, and I had never told him where I lived, but I told him the city I lived in. And the city I live in, or lived in at the time, was like I think I said like Oshawa or something. And coming from Toronto, he literally just drove the hour to the city, and then called my phone consistently asking me, where do you live? 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 And so to keep him from calling my phone, it was my house phone at the time, to keep him from calling my house phone, I had then told him, okay, fine, come. Like, I was thinking, okay, he'll just come, I'll just see him, then he'll go on his merry way. Well, I didn't know that he brought a friend with him. And in the basement, as I sat next to him, he basically, well, not basically, but he raped me. One hand on my chest, held me down with his weight. He was like a bigger guy, and while his friend cheered next to him. So that was the second time. The third time, I call that chapter "Third Time's a Charm," and essentially, what had happened was I had walked off with this individual. I had gone to um, somebody's house. I'd gone to an individual's house I brought my son with me, and I'm like, oh, the kids can play together, and, we'll talk or whatever. And that just turned out really, really horribly for me. Okay. Now the fourth time was actually somebody who I was dating at the time. And we had gone through different moments when, like there was we had met at church on New Year's, and we had exchanged numbers. Now we had gotten a couple dates, we had gotten into a relationship. It was very short lived. But throughout that journey of us going together, there was a time when I was like, cool, yeah, we can have sex. Um, but things just got out of hand, and I was feeling the tugging of God calling on me to be like, get out of this life. This is not for you. This is not where I called you, type of thing. And so as I'm trying to cut it off with this individual, um, and there's some other things that I'm just like, yo, why do I have to, why do I feel like I'm chasing you, basically? And so when I broke it off, he was like, hey, I don't understand it. Let's have a conversation. I'm like, fine, let's have a conversation. in having the conversation, I blacked out at that point. I had like fallen asleep, woke up, and that's when the rape happened. I'm clearly leaving out a lot more details to kind of just get you through the idea of going through these 4 different rapes, have being molested, and now we're at a point in my life where I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, but there's a whole lot of sadness and hurt inside of me. There's a whole lot of depression inside of me, and I need to move through it, but I don't know how to be a better mom. I don't know what to do to get myself out of this state. And at that time, I wasn't even like really sure of how to find God. So through therapy, it really helped me work on a lot of figuring out the reasons behind, like, is this the reason why I did it? Is this the reason why, like, processing a lot of the things that we went through. And so we did a lot of talking. She did a lot of listening actually, and I did a lot of like the talking and kind of like sorting through things. And she would give me some really great examples on things. She would put words to things. Like at one point, I had realized I was suffering from PTSD, but that's because she gave me the language to know what it is I was going through. I would explain to her, "Hey, this is what I'm feeling," and then she would put a name to it. And so my years spent in therapy was not wasted. It helped me navigate those seasons of my life and to come out of it. It also helps me to get to a point of understanding friendships and relationships and community around me. So is there a purpose in therapy? Did you know that ignoring your self-awareness will keep you stuck and emotionally imprisoned? Man, we go through life with this hustle mentality, going, never taking a moment to stop, to breathe, until life kind of just spirals out of control. But it is time to take control. It is time to experience the freedom of your most authentic self. And I have a gift for you. I have witnessed the tears, the happiness, the joy, the transformation when I have done this workshop in jail, in colleges, in high schools, and I want to offer this to you. So, click the link below, get access to the free mini course. There's 4 videos. You are going to enjoy it, and let's get to the other side of healing because you deserve to show up authentically as you. Absolutely, there's a purpose in therapy. Absolutely. Without a shadow of a doubt, there is a purpose in therapy. But I got to a point where I felt like all I was doing was sharing and just coming up with my own answers. And I was like, for me to drive so far, for me to spill everything that I have, spill all my guts and come up with the answers, I was like, I could do that at home. Now, mind you, I had been going to therapy for a while. So like I said, I'm not ever going to say therapy doesn't work. Therapy does work when you work it, when you are engaged in it and the rest of it. I had just gotten to a point where I was just like, I have so much more going on. And me just telling me, I felt like I was like just talking in circles. And although she was giving me great ideas and great things to go through, some of it I was just like, nah, like I wanted a different approach. Let me say that. I wanted a different approach. And so then at the, then I stopped therapy because I was going through the stuff with my son. And when he passed, I had gone back for a session to try to get ahead of it. Cause I can tell when I would call it these spiral sessions. I can tell when I'm spiraling. I can tell when something's about to happen. And so I would get into a position and say, hey, I need to speak to you because things are shifting. I can see it. I can see that this is about to happen. And a lot of the thing for me is because I was so self-aware and so in tune with what's happening in my body. Ugh, it made me feel like I feel like I can kind of guide this ship a little bit better than coming all the way here for like these short sessions. They were really short sessions. The funding was done. I couldn't get any more therapy, and I'm like, okay, so what do I do next? Like, I can't be in therapy forever, and so without therapy, there still has to be a way to go through this, and it can't be only therapy, right? Like, I hope that's clear. It had gotten to a point where things were kind of ending, things were kind of shifting for me. And I was like, well, I have to be able to get to a point where I don't need therapy. And if I'm still feeling like I need therapy, how do I get to the other side of this? How do I find something else? and what is next. And so then my son passes. I actually get saved officially through that process, give my life over to Jesus. Now I'm learning about deliverance. Now I'm learning about casting out demons. Now I'm learning about the root of depression can be rejection, or a branch of it can be rejection, can be abandonment, and all these other. Now I'm learning the wordings of a spiritual battle. And when I was in therapy, we weren't talking about the spiritual battle. We're talking about the very natural things and the emotions, the rest of it, and the mindsets. But we weren't tapping into the spirit world. We weren't tapping into the things that go on behind scenes, the things that bring the torment. We weren't even talking about why sometimes things will be in a loop, and all these memories will be brought up, and how I was being made to feel like I was crazy, and it was really just the plan of the enemy. Like, there's such a difference between therapy and Jesus. And the difference is therapy is great. Therapy offers a lot. Therapy can help in many ways. But then I also had a therapist, not the same one, but a different one, at one point, who was like, do you have to forgive? Like, all the stuff that happened to you was horrible. I wouldn't forgive none of those people. And I was like, in my head, I was like, ma'am, you were not about to send me to hell because you don't understand the Bible. You don't understand how important forgiveness and how powerful forgiveness is. We're not about to do that. And I was like, that's not going to work for me. When I met Jesus, when I started going through deliverance, when I started going through speaking things, when I started going through writing journals, writing letters to God, when I started going through worship music and using those things in my season, when I started going through the attacks and getting into a spirit and a habit of prayer, of a habit of fasting, a habit of depending and calling upon the Lord, that is when I saw the transformation truly in my life. That is when I saw things soar. That's when I saw the difference in so many of the behaviors that felt like it wasn't leaving, that felt like it was on this continuous loop and this continuous cycle while I was in therapy. Now I actually felt like I was moving forward. Now I actually felt like I had the victory in a lot of these things. And now I actually felt like, man, I really can make a difference. And it was just shifting the things that I was doing. It was building these tools, these habits of, okay, I'm praying, I'm listening to the building out a self-care plan. That is what really brought transformation for me. It was grabbing a hold of Jesus and knowing that Jesus was the Lord and Savior and my everything, and that in Him I could depend, and with Him came joy, with Him came peace, with Him came this understanding of wisdom and knowledge and things that I didn't understand, but He's allowed me to connect the dots, and this is connected to this, and this makes sense with this. It was a whole other world. And so if you ask me about Jesus in therapy, yes, if there's somebody you can speak to, get into community, but understand that therapy is not the only way. I found for me and my healing, being creative was a better tool than just sitting and talking. Talking is great, but I needed more than that. I needed something that went a little bit deeper. And in in the healing that I went through, and part of the reason that I even have a program that I offer is because I've been on both sides. I've been on the side where I did therapy. I've been on the side when things are dark. I've been on the side where things are messed up and things don't make sense. And I've also been on the side of healing. I've been on the side when I know that there's difference that can happen. I've been on the side where when I'm like, oh, okay, the life can get better. It doesn't always have to be sad. It doesn't always have to be messed up. It doesn't always have to be one-sided, that just never ending road, but there actually is a way to go forward. There actually is a way to feel better. There actually is a way to experience laughter again, because laughter felt so far from me. And I experienced such a change in the last 9 years of my life. As much as it's been a battle, as much as I feel like I'm constantly fighting, as much as sometimes I feel like I'm failing, as much as I feel like things aren't moving forward, there's been such a growth spiritually inside of me, more than I could ever think or ask, than the previous years. And I am at a place of just understanding God differently, understanding my relationships differently. People always like, oh, I don't want you to force your religion on me. Hey, I'm never forcing nothing on you. I just know happiness. And because I know happiness and joy, I'm trying to share happiness and joy with you. I'm just trying to say there's a different way. It doesn't always have to be so fanatic-y. It doesn't always have to be so crazy. It can be, you can be in a season of peace. Your spirit, mind, and soul can be connected in a way that you just never knew was even possible. There are doors that can open that will give you such a relief in life. Ugh, I feel my heart just burning right now for those who are so caught up and don't know the beauty of God. Where will you spend your life? If you died today, where will you spend your life? Where would you spend eternity? This question is not even, this moment is not planned. But if you're going through darkness, if you're going through hell, if you're going through just feeling lost and alone, there is help. There is safe spaces. There is refuge. Now it's not me. It definitely comes from the one who I'm connected to, which is God, which is Jesus, which is Holy Spirit. But think about your life today. If you died today, would you end up in heaven or would you end up in hell? And you may not even believe in a hell, but I can tell you it's very real. You may not even believe in a heaven, but I can tell you my son has seen it. Think about where you would end up today. And then answer this question. Are you sure that that's where you want to go? Are you sure that that's where you're going to go? And if you feel like you want something different, first I want you to repeat after me, and then I'm going to pray for you. Lord, I need help. Lord, I need help. I have done this for so long on my own, but I need your help. I need your wisdom. I need your courage. And I need you to come before me. I need your love. I need your security and I need your stability. I need your peace. I need your joy. I need your laughter. Lord, I can't do this on my own. There's no way that I can continue walking in defeat, but I need victory. I need to win. I need life to look differently than it ever has. And so I'm asking you today to come into my life. I'm asking you today to wrap me in your arms. I'm asking you today to stay with me, to be the comfort, to be the shelter, to be the help. For those who don't know about Jesus, Jesus is the Son of God. You might have heard his story. He died on the cross, rose from the grave in 3 days. He paid it all. He took lashings and beatings so that we could live life freely, to be honest. And some of us have been doing a really sucky job at that. But God is here, has put us here on this earth, not to be consumed, but to be in community with each other and one another. And so to get to heaven, the only way is through Jesus. And so as we pray, we acknowledge that, Jesus, you are the Son of God. I believe in you. I believe you died for my sins. I believe you rose from the grave. And I believe that with you, I can do the impossible, because you are a good and amazing God and good and amazing Father. There's nothing too hard for you. There's nothing out of reach for you. And so today, I surrender to you. You might want to play this a couple times to hear it, to read it back. I'm really doing this by the Spirit within me. If that is your prayer, congratulations for making a choice for yourself. Congratulations for taking a step in a direction that it may not look easy, feel easy, but it's one that you will find peace on. It's one that, as the fights come, you'll know that there's somebody fighting for you, fighting with you, and that you are not alone. And so I've done this whole series, God and Sex. And when I look at my past, when I look at where God has brought me from, when I look at the rapes and the things that have been done to my body, and I look at where God has brought me from, where He's brought me to a place of victory, to a place of being at peace, to a place of loving myself truly. Guys, I'm here with natural hair today. And another thing that I just did not plan. God has brought me to a place where I am able to see Him in a light, and I want to share that light with you. And so I pray that this has touched you. I pray that you've spoken the word. I pray that you have taken from it. I pray that you have heard it all. I pray that you have said the prayer. I pray that that it has ministered to you. And I pray that from this day forward, you will know that you're loved, and you will not go through darkness by yourself. Now, with everything, there's always going to be materials. There's always going to be a walk forward. There's always going to be things that you need to know more than what I'm saying. And so in the description, I'm going to leave a lot more information. And I'm going to put a separate video that kind of goes over again everything I just said, because I kind of just did it by the fly. But I just want you to know that you are loved. I just want you to know that you don't have to give over to temptation. You don't have to give over to desires. And although you might have been broken, bruised, assaulted, there is a way forward. It can be therapy, but it can also be Jesus. It can also be in the direction of peace, love, and transformation. That's all I've ever wanted for me, and that's all I ever want for you. So, be blessed. And until next time, we'll talk. Love you. And check out the outro, because you're going to want to hear it. It's all the work that I do. I've done it for others, and I can do it for you as well. We'll talk soon. What would it look like if we were a people that were healed? What would it look like if we were people that believed in doing the work necessary to remove trauma, to get through grief, and to come out on the other side? Man, we think that therapy is the only way. Therapy is a great way, but there's also a creative way that can help us get through this process. My name is Kola. I am an amazing artist, and I have a program called Restore and Embrace Myself. It is all about the healing and the getting through and the getting over. And if nobody told you, you are special and you are so deserving of so much more in this world. So get in contact with me, because I'd love to work with you.